When asked about the perfect antagonist for me, I always give the example of Yujiro Hanma right from the beginning. I have to clarify something that, although a lot of people already know, many others still don't know the difference between an antagonist and a villain. In fact, I bet a lot of people don't even know they're not the same thing. An antagonist, as the name suggests, is a term that refers to characters who go against the ideals of the protagonist, who in some way stand in their way, and in short, they end up being an obstacle for the hero of the story. An antagonist can also be a villain, but it's not a requirement. For example, Smoker from One Piece is an antagonist because he completely opposes Luffy's ideals. And in fact, he wants to hunt him down and put him in jail, just like the rest of the pirates. But even though Smoker is an antagonist who tries to put an end to the protagonist's adventures, no one in their right mind would say that Smoker is evil, because his goal is actually very noble. On the other hand, a villain is someone who is simply evil, who seeks to cause harm in some way, who doesn't even need a purpose, who enjoys doing evil. Again, in One Piece, we have another great example of this character archetype. In this case, with Doflamingo, who is my favorite villain and character in One Piece. As if anyone didn't know already, Doflamingo had a very hard and traumatic past because of his father's incompetence. To keep it brief, as this video focuses on Yujiro, I'll simply say that he ultimately desired nothing but destruction. Pain, making all those people he hated feel the same pain he felt in his childhood. Therefore, going back to the ogre, we are clearly dealing with an antagonist. Even though Yujiro's methods are very immoral, that doesn't mean he seeks evil or destruction. For example, no one would call anti-heroes like the Punisher or Deadpool villains, even though their methods are sometimes terribly amoral. Yujiro's real goal is his son, whom he loves madly. And that's something I already talked about in my video comparing King Frix from Hunter x Hunter. With Yujiro in his role as a father, which I highly recommend, at least the part where I talk about Yujiro. Since I went much deeper into this relationship there, father-son relationship between Yujiro and Baki, since this time I'm going to focus on Yujiro himself. Rather than focusing on Yujiro's family relationships, it's well known that he excels as a husband and father. Hashtag tough love. Well, still, Yujiro went a little overboard. Just with that tough love thing. Phew, Mother March. The memes about domestic violence in Baki will never go out of style. Where was I? Oh, yes. The role that Yujiro plays in the series is spectacular. Everyone who has watched the series and read the manga knows that every time this hunk shows up on screen, something epic is about to happen. And that's something that fascinates me. The way Yujiro is built, the descriptions we get of him, the milestones he achieved in the story, make even the viewer nervous when he appears. Like the Joker from Detective Comics and Hisoka from Hunter x Hunter, Yujiro is a character who acts independently, not following the plot steps. He has a completely different goal. A couple of examples of what I'm talking about could be the Underground Arena Tournament, or the Convict Saga, while the entire cast of characters was 100% focused on the same point. Yujiro isn't a character that gives the impression of writing himself. Even if it sounds like a joke, is it true? I remember that at one point in the series, we were given a brief explanation of how Yujiro always managed to be not just one, but 100 steps ahead of the second best fighter. Did the story show that at that moment? And that's because he has always considered himself the most powerful creature in this world. It might even sound silly that a character is always the strongest just because he considers himself as such. But isn't that what his creator wants to convey to us? That monstrous confidence is what makes Yujiro so fearsome. This is what always pushes him to maintain his position at the top of the food chain. It's not just his body and genetics that allow him to hold his title. It's also thanks to that overwhelming mentality he has. In Yujiro, everything a person needs to be number one at anything is condensed. Genetics, obsession, and mentality. Yujiro's way of thinking is terrifying. He has reached such a level of confidence that he is able to suppress 99% of his human instincts. Not entirely. His fight against Kakukai revealed that although he's nearly a monster, he still holds on to some humanity, since his body, upon detecting imminent danger, made him step back from Kakukai. Still, this is just an isolated case. We can say that Yujiro has left behind basic instincts like fear or insecurity. The fact that he knows what he's capable of always allows him to go one step further. He's not afraid of anything or anyone. And only God knows what kind of training someone with that power and that mindset goes through. That's why Baki keeps progressing faster and faster, to the point where he also starts to become a fearsome character. Because basically, he's learning to be a mini Yujiro, but in a smaller version. He also starts to suppress instincts like fear or insecurity, and becomes more and more aware of the innate abilities he has. And therefore, his perspective on things is not the same. In Baki and Dao, following the events of Son of Ogre at the manga's beginning, Baki demonstrates character development, contrary to some claims. As I mentioned before, every time Yujiro appears in the story, it's a big event, because his presence is a sign that something totally unpredictable is about to happen. Because that damn son of a bitch is anything but predictable. Being a guy who doesn't follow the storyline he's supposed to follow, he has an incredible ability to break the rhythm of anything happening in a frantic way. He puts all the spotlight on himself in a matter of seconds. He's a showman. Aside from his incredible God-sculpted muscles, a big part of his appeal is his enormous charisma, which again comes from, in part, the attitude I explained earlier. Typically, in other works, a broken rhythm is often detrimental and unfavorable. Like the infamous Happy Little House arc in Sword Art Online, where the characters go from being in a virtual world fighting for survival to living in a wooden cabin playing house. God, but what a cringe anime. How the hell do I criticize Sword Art Online in every video I make without it feeling forced? Like the typical beach episode in almost every modern anime. It also tends to really mess up the pacing of a series, since half the main cast could have died just 1 or 2 episodes ago. And yet those bastards just go to the beach to flirt with each other, totally out of context. Beach episodes, I can't stay mad at you. I love you. Long live beach episodes. Damn, that's enough. I can't go off on tangents anymore. It's over. What I mean by all this is that we could just as well be in the underground sand arc, coming up with theories about the true identity of the mysterious jackhammer. Or in my case, I also had a lot of fun sitting down to analyze each fight before it happened, drawing conclusions about who was more likely to win each match. Baki is unpredictable. The winner isn't always the protagonist or the seemingly strongest character. It's like betting against myself. With its strong martial arts influence, it's always challenging to predict the victor in this manga. Let's find out. In that tournament, it was evident Baki would reach the final, but it was still very enjoyable. The thing is, while we were totally focused on that, suddenly Yujiro would show up and turn everything upside down. Absolutely no character wanted Yujiro there causing trouble, but of course, they couldn't get rid of him either. Yujiro is that annoying admin you can't confront without consequences. In his case, he'll beat you up instead of banning you. Speaking of the Underground Arena Tournament arc, there's an intriguing point to make about Yujiro. In this arc, I noticed that the fighters try not to take Yujiro into account. Do you get what I mean? Once Baki won his title as champion of the Underground Arena, everyone started treating him as such. In fact, you could say that, in a way, he was the strongest up to that point, not counting his father. Obviously. Even the convicts went after him once they escaped from prison. Where am I going with all this? You see, it's that no one treats Yujiro like a human being. Everyone is aware that Yujiro is the strongest, but they don't take it into account. It's as if he's completely separate. They treat him like a monster. And this is sublime, because it shows once again that no one wants Yujiro's presence. It's simply inevitable. Even Itagaki, his creator, has a hard time getting Yujiro off the stage. This is one of the problems with creating a character who's basically totally overpowered. That caused absurd situations, such as the contentious scene involving the net and tranquilizers. Many people were shocked by that, but the truth is that poor Itagaki just couldn't come up with a more organic way to get him out of the way. It's not like it was just for a few chapters, and that way he wouldn't kill off the entire cast of characters before the saga ended. It's widely accepted that he's the strongest creature. His title is rarely challenged. Probably only Musashi Miyamoto and the current Baki have the honor of putting the world's strongest creature in check. Yujiro's presence is imposing and interesting. If we look at his progress as a character throughout the story, we can see that he doesn't really have any actual character development. But rather, as he feels the time is right, he gradually starts to soften his attitude and changes his behavior. That's something we saw with Kaoru Hanayama. At first, Yujiro despised Hanayama and treated him like trash, but as Hanayama has become stronger and stronger, Yujiro has started to notice him. On more than one occasion, you could say he ends up gaining a certain respect, or maybe even a slight fondness for him, since, as we've seen recently, Hanayama can, if he wants, have a one-on-one conversation with the ogre, a feat that not too long ago was unthinkable. My conclusion is that Yujiro is a character very much worth analyzing. Even his anger fits are usually insightful, like the prank he pulled on Ali Jr. in the hotel. Me? As Ali left after confronting Yujiro Hanma, he likely thought, "All right, Ali, that was bold, but you literally have 3 seconds to get out of this building if you don't want to. Die and..." Just like with Hanayama, Yujiro also gradually began to form a friendship, even with Orochidopo, the guy whose heart he literally stopped with a punch. Yujiro is a complex character, and not just anyone can earn his respect or attention. And just like I mentioned about his son Jack Nerfeos Locos, Hanma Yujiro is also a character of details, because he will never hit someone who isn't willing to fight or can't defend themselves. It's true that sometimes he seeks conflict, but if that person is an ordinary human, outside the world of fighting, the military, or combat in general, unless you provoke him, it's unlikely that Yujiro would want to hurt you. Despite the recent decline in the Baki manga, I still have high expectations for this character, at least in the long-awaited final arc of this manga. In the meantime, we'll be looking forward to the next move that the ogre, the strongest creature on the face of the earth, will make. Stonker moment.